I want to hit the lowest amount of cost to get the customer to do an action. So I personally would start with an email because that's not costing me anything. And then after that, we'll follow it with the text message. You want to set up a couple of different channels, again, to hit the customer in different places, but be mindful of your cost at the same time.
Welcome to Mastering ServiceTitan, where you get expert advice from power users. I'm your host, Josh Liu, and today I'm joined by Paul Belesis, the Growth Marketing Manager here at ServiceTitan, and we are talking about tactics and strategies for this spring season. And so, Paul, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh. Thanks for having me.
This is such a full circle moment because I think it was 2-3 years ago, I interviewed you as part of your process for joining ServiceTitan, and I think within 3 minutes, I was like, yeah, Paul should work here.
I remember that interview. Yeah, we just had a really good conversation, and I was like, yeah, I think this will work out. It's like,
yeah,
I think I'm going to work with Josh again in the future somewhere, some shape, somehow. And now I'm on your podcast, so here we are.
It's such a cool moment. But yeah, let's kick us off here about the spring. From your perspective, why is the spring season so important, and what are the unique challenges and opportunities during this time?
Yeah, so springtime, you're really starting to come down from peak shoulder season, which is your January, February, even early March timeframes. What you're trying to do is you're starting to ramp up into full-on maintenance season. Now, what's difficult about it is the customer isn't quite in full spring mode. So you really have to start enticing them to schedule their jobs. So it involves like a lot of different outreach and different ways, shapes, and forms. Sometimes you're also dealing with challenges with the weather at the same time. So sometimes it might be too cold to do some of those maintenances on the HVAC systems. So there's certain things that the technicians can do when they're actually at the jobs. But basically, you're coordinating a lot of different schedules going on, a lot of different marketing campaigns going on, and you're also trying to get a hold of customers.
Gotcha. It sounds like a lot of the marketing and some of the strategy there shifts during the spring. Can you talk a little bit about how marketing strategy might change as the spring approaches?
So marketing strategy will definitely change as spring approaches. If you're hitting that March 1st timeframe, you really need to be shifting gears into full-on maintenance marketing campaigns. Why it's so important is that you're starting to try to build up demand and pipeline heading into mid-March, end of March, and going into April. And your goal is to get as many jobs on the board as possible because you want to get through these maintenance jobs because then it's going to set you up for success when you hit the peak summer months like end of May, June, July, where you don't want to be doing necessarily maintenance jobs. You want to be doing demand service work and install and repairs.
So with the change in marketing strategy and as the spring approaches, what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes or challenges contractors go through?
Number one, not being necessarily proactive and not having a really defined strategy. I think a lot of times, like you're so focused on tackling shoulder season that you have to like almost immediately shift gears. And sometimes that can leave you a little bit flat-footed. So I think it's important to be planning your maintenance strategy all the way through February into March and then start activating on that strategy so you're not caught flat-footed. I think the other thing is a lot of extra manual work that contractors have to do. There's a lot of automations you can do these days within ServiceTitan, whether it's on Marketing Pro or Scheduling Pro or any like adaptive capacity. So if you're able to take some advantage of some of those automations, it reduces the amount of manual effort your team has to do.
Yeah, what is some of that manual effort that you've seen or you heard out there where when you hear it, you're like, oh my gosh, that is something quick and easy that you could just automate?
When I was doing marketing in the trades, a lot of things we would have to do when it came to maintenance season was we'd send one-off emails, which required a lot of list pulling and email building. Either I was doing it myself or we were working with an agency, and that isn't super easy. You're going a lot of back and forth. One of the other things we were doing again with an agency was sending postcards, which is a good reminder for your customers because they're going to get a physical piece of postcard in their mail versus maybe just an email that they might not necessarily read or they might miss or who knows. So that was a lot of coordination, both with designing the postcard and then getting the list and sending in, working with the vendor. And it took a lot of turnaround time. So there's a lot of simplicities in terms of what you can do within ServiceTitan and Marketing Pro, where you're able to activate emails immediately, build lists very easily with actual real ServiceTitan data. You're able to send mailers very easily as well, whether it's to all your members or to certain radiuses. So there's really easy things you can do there. In addition, right now, your call center, this is where you usually hand them a list of customers that they need to outbound call to get on the schedule. And they're just going one by one down that list and trying to get a hold of those customers. And it's like playing telephone tag. So there's like definitely ways that ServiceTitan is working on trying to make that process a whole lot easier. So let's say you are doing emails and direct mail pieces and just getting the word out. That's one thing, because then you're going to hit a bucket of customers. But in addition, coming really soon, we're actually going to have AI agents that are able to outbound to your customers. So that way your agents, your CSRs are able to provide really good customer experiences while they're handling phone calls, but then your outbound agents are able to play that telephone tag and try to get those customers on the phone. So that's going to be a game changer. That's coming out very soon.
I think people are really excited about outbound agents in ServiceTitan. Is that going to be part of AI voice agent, the new latest voice agent that we have, or is that separate?
So right now we have AI voice agents. What they're able to do is they're able to handle any of your inbound calls, and you're able to stand these up in about 10, 15 minutes, if that, and very customizable. They're the only agents that are actually native to ServiceTitan. So they're able to read all your customer data. They're able to see your capacity. They're able to know your job types and actually book the jobs the correct way as your CSRs would. So that's what they're able to do right now. But that's just the floor. And we're really growing very quickly. And soon they're going to be able to do all those outbounding calls. And you can determine what types of jobs they can accept or what types of jobs they don't necessarily handle and escalate that to a human. So they're very customizable, and they're just meant to really work with your business and with your CSR teams.
Yeah, I think AI voice agents, one of the most exciting new innovations here at ServiceTitan that people are really keeping tabs on. And I think it's probably the fastest in terms of adding new features. Like I don't think I've seen at my time here at ServiceTitan a product get advanced so quickly. We did a full episode with Henry a few episodes ago on AI voice agents. So if this is the first time you're hearing about it, please go listen to that one for a full deep dive. And then we got to have him back on when outbounding is available. Do you know if there's an update on outbounding for SMS?
Yeah, SMS. So we are working on outbounding for SMS. So you currently can actually do this within Marketing Pro. You have the full ability just to upload lists or just be able to target certain customers and be able to send them SMS messages. And then the other thing that we're currently working on is being able customers to get that message through Marketing Pro. With Scheduling Pro, they're actually going to be able to book a job just through text conversation. So you don't necessarily need to just click a link and go to the scheduler. You can actually just say, hey, text, hey, are you open tomorrow at 2:00? And then AI is able to understand the schedule, just like the AI voice agents. And then it's actually able to help the customer book a job.
So yeah, we've got the spring. You really want to maximize these maintenance jobs. You've got different strategies to do so. Postcards, your typical email through Marketing Pro. We have outbound power coming soon in AI voice agent. What else is new with Marketing Pro that people might not know about that they can take advantage of today?
So we just went over texting. That's like a fairly new feature. People are really enjoying that. One of the things that we're actually doing right now is Marketing Pro is able to do multi-channel campaigns. So specifically for maintenance season, this is a really good idea because you're trying to hit those different touch points with the customer. So you're able to set up a campaign that has, let's say, an email goes out. 3 days later, no response, you have a text message go out. 4 days later, no response, you send something that's a little bit more expensive for you as a contractor, you send a direct mail piece. But let's say that customer booked on the first text message or customer booked on the first email, then you're actually saving yourself money by not having to send the direct mail piece. So a lot of these integrated marketing channels are very, very helpful. I would say in addition, another thing that we recently launched is meta ads. What you're able to do is start syncing your ServiceTitan customer data with Facebook, Meta, Instagram, where people are living and breathing most of their time when they're at home. So you're able to start serving those maintenance customers and other ads. So just think about that. We just went through 4 different touch points where your customer is going to be able to serve an ad that, hey, like it's time to schedule your maintenances. And I think there's like a rule of 7 where the customer usually has to see a message 6 or 7 times to be able to remember and act upon it. Right there's 4 times. And then, the customer is going to start taking action. You got the outbound agents calling, your CSRs calling. You're going to get your maintenances on the board fairly easily with that.
Wow, that is such a strategic way to go about it. Do you have any best practices or recommendations on which to do first and when? Like, let's say, I know March 1st is what you mentioned, but for different parts of the country, if they're looking at forecasts, if it's shifting, like, I guess it's a really big question, but it's like, let's say you're looking at the forecast. Can you paint a scenario, like a typical scenario where you're seeing the weather change? And then what would you do first? Email, text, then is it postcard? Then where do ads come in? Do you have any recommendations there? Big question.
Yep. So I think everywhere in the country is going to be a little bit different. When I was in the trades, I was in the Northeast in Pennsylvania. So it was very similar cyclically as a lot of the country was. But what you're really looking for is those mild days. So you're looking between those 40 and 60 degree weather days that are hitting. And as a marketer in the trades, you are constantly looking at the weather and trying to base your marketing and what's coming in. You're going to throw out demand, how many calls are coming, how many calls aren't coming in. So that's really your goal. So what I would say is, and I mentioned this earlier, is that during the winter season, yes, you need to be driving demand, but you also need to be building these campaigns, and you can easily do them just a couple of minutes on like Marketing Pro or anything. So that way, when you see that weather change, when they click on a button, you're activating. And then to your point, we were talking about a little bit earlier too, is that How I would look at it is I want to hit the lowest amount of cost to get the customer to do an action. So I personally would start with an email because that's not costing me anything. And then after that, we'll follow it with the text message. And then after a text message, maybe you have another email go out. It doesn't hurt as a quick follow. And then maybe you have the postcard go out at the end of the day. And that's kind of like wrapping it up, and that's going to the customer. So you want to set up a couple of different channels, again, to hit the customer in different places, but be mindful of your costs at the same time.
Where does meta ads fit into that? Do you just layer it in throughout, or do you kind of save it for the end?
I would layer it in throughout. You're just kind of building that awareness. And also meta ads, they're really not that expensive per impression. So if you're just hitting a certain customer list, if you have 1,000 members or some of our bigger customers, maybe 10 to 20,000 members, it costs you pennies to hit a customer with an impression. So I think like just making sure you constantly have those impressions on. You're, again, sending your email, sending your text messages, maybe sending your postcards, but then all in the background, maybe every day they're getting hit with that meta ad. So I think that'll definitely be helpful in causing the customer to take the action you want them to take.
Now, how about for those on the flip side? They're like super busy. Do they want to drive demand without adding too much lift for the office team? Like, what's their situation like during this time?
So if you're really busy, you're doing a very good job. And usually we start seeing that towards like maybe your end of April's, early May. So then you want to be a little bit more strategic about the jobs that you are taking. So just to back up a little bit, if you're doing maintenance season right, you're trying to maximize the amount of maintenances you're doing every single day. And that sometimes means one really good strategy is using adaptive capacity for that. And what you're able to do with adaptive capacity, you can say, I only want to book these types of jobs in this zip code on these days. What that allows your technician to do is go, and maybe instead of doing 3 jobs that are 30 minutes apart, they'll be able to do 4 or 5 jobs that are in the same neighborhood that are just 5 minutes apart. And that allows them to complete a lot more jobs. So then you're getting through your maintenance jobs, which is you're contractually obligated to do for your maintenance members. And then you're able to open up the door to take some of those demand calls. Now, when you're taking those demand calls or even new customer maintenances, you want to make sure you're focused on the customers that are more valuable to you as long-term customers. And usually this comes in form of HVAC. If you're looking at your systems that are 10 plus years old, because they're very likely to need replacement or extra repairs, you're boosting up your average ticket. But then you're also able to convert those into full-on new system installations where you're driving $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in revenue. So be mindful of those jobs, things you can do to be thoughtful about driving more of those jobs. So on the marketing side, let's say you have a customer and you just went to their home and they have a system that's 15 years old and they have a neighborhood and all the houses are very similar. They're all built around the same time. What you can do in Marketing Pro is just be able to say, I want to target that zip code or that neighborhood. And then you're able just to do that. You can even do that with Facebook and meta ads too, where you're able to do a radius. So whenever I found that, what I would do is I would create a super personalized postcard that says like, not even like we're in your neighborhood, we're in blank neighborhood, dynamic, put in what the actual neighborhood is, be very thoughtful about that, and then send that postcard out. I would put a pretty good offer. We would do a $79 clean and check. It's a good foot in the door introductory offer. Or if you want to provide a little bit more value and service, you could say a full on maintenance, whatever your price point might be. But your goal is to get into the house because first off, they saw that their neighbor had you guys out. They saw the van sit out there for a couple of hours. They're able to talk to the neighbor. Hey, did you have a really good experience with that contractor? Boom, they get a postcard. Oh, also you can drop a pin on Meta and they have like an extra little radius targeting where they're starting to see you on Facebook. And then you're able to capture that job. And then in particular, if you're using adaptive capacity, you're able to say, I only want to book these types of jobs. So like systems that are older, HVAC, we want to make sure we're booking them either same day or next day versus maybe someone got a HVAC system last year that wants some maintenance on it. You don't care about that one as much because you're not going to make money on it. So you're able to pull forward when you're scheduling more high value jobs. Same thing in Scheduling Pro. The customer, as soon as they answer the question about how old is your HVAC system, and the schedule pops up and that's dynamic and you're able to say like, oh, you can book tomorrow. And also in Scheduling Pro, we now have dynamic dispatch fees. So maybe their dispatch fee is like way reduced because you're reducing your customer acquisition cost and then you're getting into the door and then you're getting that high value job.
Wow. It sounds like the tools that we have available are way more customizable to allow you to be super strategic depending on the situation. This is giving me a really good picture of maintenance season. So you're trying to front load all these membership, all the maintenance jobs that you owe these customers. And then in the meantime, as demand calls come in, anything that's a high opportunity, you're trying to maximize not only that job, but getting more like it in that neighborhood with both meta ads and then the postcard zip code radius that's super personalized. Is that right? I summarized that okay?
You can do that. Yeah, absolutely. You can do the postcard, you can do the meta ads, you can even do very personalized Google ads. We also have a Google ads integration. So all those things, you're just starting to create a cycle where you're just starting to get in front of the right customers, because it's all about getting in front of the right customers the right way at the right time. And then that way you're starting to build up your presence in the neighborhood. Because imagine you get that next job in the neighborhood and then you done 2 customers and then like, oh, maybe you do door hangers. I don't know. You think outside the box a little bit. And then you start really building a clientele within this neighborhood of 30 homes that's all going to need $15,000 system replacements. That's a lot of money.
Do you remember? Because I feel like every year is different. The weather's different. Like you said, it's like you're always keeping an eye on it. Do you remember any spring season that went exceptionally well, and any campaign ideas, or like what did you guys do so right during those times?
Yeah. So one campaign that went extremely well was a time that we actually thoughtfully planned through maintenance season how we're going to activate against it. So what we did, we had a very cohesive campaign. So yes, we had all of our members and we had messaging going out to them to schedule their maintenances, and we used the very same look and feel. It was very springy, green, bright. It was transitioning into that season. At the flip side, we actually had a $79 clean-in check that we were running to new members, people that weren't part of our customer base. And we were extremely strategic about where we sent those postcards, sent those emails, we're activating in the market. But again, it had the same look and feel. So we were running both on traditional and on digital channels. So we had your typical, your Googles, your Metas. We had emails going, text messages going, but then we also wanted to start driving more brand awareness in certain markets. And that's where it came in handy knowing where those older systems were. Because then we went to the billboard company and we were saying like, hey, we want to target this specific zip code around this neighborhood. What are close billboards near that? And we were able to branch out a little bit. We did some OTT, which is TV streaming, and we were able to target certain zip codes in certain neighborhoods with that. We also did broadcast television. Again, all this has a very cohesive look and feel. And then on top of that, you're blanketing that awareness, but then you're pinpointing the neighborhoods that you actually want to hit with postcards and with any other certain tactics, dropping like a pin from Facebook and Instagram, being super personalized in the content that you're producing for them, having very specific Google digital ads. So it's all about having a very cohesive, unified strategy. And that's what we've noticed works the best.
And then what do you do, if the weather's a little erratic? So let's say like you have those tempered days, you're shifting strategy to everything we've talked about, and then you do see like a hot day pop up or something like that. How do you prepare to like shift and not spend too much money on that hot day when you're going to have a lot of demand?
Hit the bricks, no. So I think like it's very important to capture that demand, and you need to see it upcoming. Make sure the schedule is clear at that point, because you need to be able to capture those demand calls. So your CSRs and your dispatchers need to be helping by moving some of those jobs. Let's say the hot day is coming on a Wednesday. They need to be clearing the schedule for that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, trying to push those jobs in a very nice way to the customer, maybe even giving them a discount, give them $15 off, give them $20 off or something. That way they're not upset. And then you cleared the schedule to capture a lot of those jobs. Then what you need to do is a quick switch on your keywords to make sure you're optimizing for your service and replacement type keywords. Maybe you have one of the things that we had was a playbook actually. So when we had the first warm day above 80 degrees, I believe it was, we activated it. And this is all through marketing, but you can do all this with an email, with a text message, with social posts. And it's not just like, hey, if you need service, we're going to be here. It's also like, hey, like these are things that you can do. It's going to be warm today. Like this is the good temperature to keep your HVAC unit at. You should actually rearrange where your vents are, which vents are open and closed versus like the vents up top versus the vents down low, because warm air circulates differently than cold air. So you're being very thoughtful in terms of like how you're communicating to your customers, but also on the strategic side, how you're shifting your budget on the digital spend to make sure you're staying in front and you're capturing those high value jobs.
Wow, I feel like we could do an entire part 2 just on the scheduling portion, because today we covered so much within marketing. So anything else that you wanted to mention about this time and other opportunities?
I mean, this time of year, you've just gotten through the thick of shoulder season. You're really trying to start the year. You started the year and it's hard, and now you're starting to like ramp up for peak summer season. This is where you really need to be strategic and start making your money. So we talked about like a lot of the things you can do there. Just remember that like you are going to be going into the homes of all your maintenance customers. They all have plumbing systems. They all have electrical systems. They all have HVAC systems. So make sure you're checking all those systems. If they have an older water heater, make sure you're documenting the age of that water heater, because data is power, and you're able to maybe convert that into a sales opportunity eventually at some point. And if not, it might just need service, but you just want to have that data on file. Other things you can be doing, and make sure you're training your technicians on this, is selling indoor air quality systems. It's spring, allergies are bad. indoor air quality systems are a great way to boost the average ticket up a couple $100s. And not only that, but it actually really does help your customers quite a bit. So they could be training on that. They could be training on meta filters. Having larger filters with your HVAC unit also helps bump up your average ticket a little bit, but also helps the customer, which helps reduce their energy costs by reducing drag on the HVAC system. So there's a lot of things that you can be doing in terms of making the most out of every job that you're on.
It's so timely because I just moved to a new house and I'm near this canyon and I just started getting allergies for the first time in my life. I was like, oh, I never really understood IAQ. So I was like, why do people need that? And then now I'm like, dang, I wish I had that because yeah, I'm like sniffling all the time now. And it's just like, it's a new experience for me. So
yeah. Oh man, it's around the corner.
So yeah, we covered the big topic of marketing today. I think we should do a round two to go over scheduling for the spring, but maybe you can give us a little bit of a teaser. You mentioned Scheduling Pro a few times. What are the latest new things with Scheduling Pro that ServiceTitan has released that people might not know about?
There's so much coming out with Scheduling Pro. So like I said, they're working on right now is rolling out AI agent with SMS. So you're able to book just through a full-on SMS conversation. One of the other things we recently rolled out, let's say someone's booking a job on Scheduling Pro and maybe someone called them and they just forgot to finish booking the job. What Scheduling Pro is able to do is follow up that customer via SMS. And we've seen significant booking rate increases from abandoned sessions because life happens. We all know that. So this text message is just a great reminder. Other things we rolled out is, and it's just prone for memberships and maintenances, is reoccurring services. So customers that have a membership or a reoccurring service, they're able to have a more custom booking experience where they're able to book that very easily and very quickly. You're able to capture payments on Scheduling Pro now. So forget the technician having to ask for that in the home. You're going to save them time, but also CSRs. Maybe they're having to follow up constantly with the customer to try to get that payment and capture it. You no longer have to do that. They can capture it right within Scheduling Pro. Another thing that actually came out as well, I feel like I'm going through a huge list here, but they're really doing a great job. It's dynamic dispatch fees. So you can throttle dispatch fees based on your actual capacity and based on the job types. So higher priority jobs we were talking about earlier that you're going to make more money on, lower the dispatch fee, the capacity sooner. Jobs that you don't necessarily need to do right this second, they're not going to make a ton of money on, maybe bump that dispatch fee up and bump out the timeline a little bit more. So you're able to control what jobs you're coming in and when you're scheduling them.
Perfect. Wow, your wealth of knowledge. I think we'll put a pin in that, and that'll be stuff we can dive into deeper in the next episode of this series to help you make the most out of the spring season. Anything else that we should leave people with? Like if people want to follow you or hear more from Paul, where should they go?
I'm all over social media. You can follow me at Paul the Pro, whether it's on Instagram, on YouTube, or on TikTok. I come up with like just quick hitter videos, little tips. We went through this for 20 minutes here, Josh, but these tips that I'm able to share out to the contractors about 30 seconds of your time, and it can make a big impact for your business. So definitely come there, follow me. You'll see some of those tips, whether it's for your business, but also through ServiceTitan too. So some of these really cool products and features that are coming out, I'm just going to go through them, give you a quick overview, and then you're able to just learn more. You have the knowledge and then you can go implement them. So yeah, give me a follow and you'll learn more.
Amazing. And I know you're flying all over the country at events, so I'm sure people will start to run into you at Toolbox Lives and all that. So thank you so much for coming on today, Paul, and then we'll catch up for episode 2 in this series.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.